Hello, hello, and happy Friday, everyone. We've made it. Made it through another week. And yeah. I don't know about anyone else, but I have been thinking about this game ever since our last stream, and I am still just heartbroken. So, we'll see if it can just crush my spirit more. Let's just get into it. So, let's recap. Let's see. Sorry, I didn't scroll before the stream started. Serika wants us to protect her and wonders if we can bring ourselves to kill Senni. We went to the cafe and saw another sumo that made us panic over Senni hunting us down, suspecting another psychic is helping her even though no one else saw it. Hinaya called BS on Nono, saying she saw Senni die because she can't believe Senni would kill. Senni traumatized Yui, so now it's real personal, but we survived till another day. We deduced that while the killings are bound to the new Generation Madness dates, Yui might be one of the psychics on Senni's list of targets, which we confirmed by showing her Uki's D-sword, but we don't know her power, though it might be to read Sakuma. Shinjo is studying an impaled and unusually immolated cadaver, which is apparently suddenly stabbed by one of her targets, Nico Haida. Hinaya and Serika dropped to Alba and said that Senni's reported dead after they found her place. Mio figures that Senni can't be psychic if she was in a locked mystery murder without an observer to use her powers, and look for evidence tying her to the committee from the other games. The club is winding down for mystery mode, but Serika wants a new case / to sleep with us. And you know what? She's best girl, so let's do it. People are spreading fake news about us, from which Ito deduced that Senni wasn't after us, Diko Haida was. Ito figures Diko used her powers to kill Senni and made us see Senni trying to kill us, but the real Senni is the victim of the new generation madness. We tried to find safety and panicked that Ito is apparently operating on Yui. We came across the sight of Yui chopped up in boxes like a doll, and Ito ranted about Senni dying. Nono fought him and said someone else, we think Kawahara, is speaking through him and controlling him, but he smashed his head open. Yui, we will absolutely avenge Yui. We will avenge Ito, assuming that, Ito isn't the one behind all of this. I am just... How the hell do we come back from this? This is a lot to come back from. I don't know what to do. All right. Oh, that's right. We got to chapter 9. Four days after Yui's death. The autopsy, the police interviews, all of that came to an end, and Yui's body was sent for cremation. Yui. We had a family. We were happy. Well, Steins Gate had this whole thing where we used time travel and then realized that we shouldn't be time traveling. So, as much as I would love to do that, I don't think that one's going to be possible. We'll find out. Her soul became thin, pure white smoke and soared up to the heavens. Kurusu and I stood between the trees at the funeral home and watched it rise. They say crematoriums now use filters and stuff, so they only give off clean smoke. Huh. I'd say something that didn't matter and Kurusu would only half listen. We'd been doing that for a while now. Dad was probably in the room where the family waited for the cremation to finish, holding Yuto in his strong arms the whole time. Uki, Senni, Arimura, and Kazuki were probably watching, but they couldn't do anything. It's strange, you know? It was so sad at first, and I couldn't stop crying. But now I'm okay. I'm thinking about the cost of the funeral and what to do for her grave. I guess I'm a heartless girl. Even as she spoke, she looked thin and frail from her suffering, but there was a light, like gray flame, in her eyes. I'd never seen her look like that before. No, there's no one else who can do that stuff but you. Dad looks so out of it these days. There isn't? Yeah. Besides, I'd already heard the muffled sobbing that came from Kurusu's room late at night. Those are cute. Like, I like that idea, of like being buried in one of those pods that, to grow a tree. But also like with how much deforestation and shit keeps happening, like I can only imagine that my pod would be dug up in like 5 years anyways, and then what? Like I don't know, man. After that, I'd moved back to Alba Dorm from the RV. Kurisu, Yuto, Uki, and Dad, all of them were shocked and saddened by Yui's death. If I were to leave them too, I couldn't bear the idea of a lonely Alba Dorm without me or Yui. And when I was alone, I found myself remembering Yui, and I'd feel like I was going to go crazy. So I wanted to be with someone I could share my sorrows with. I was about to learn that this was what the family I'd tried to abandon was for, but for now, my head was full of thoughts of finding the person who'd done this to Yui. Takuru? Hmm? Once the funeral's over, get a little rest. You don't look so good. Neither do you. You haven't gotten any rest either, right? I can't sleep at night. I have all these bad dreams, and I keep waking up. I mean, girl, we saw some fairly traumatic shit that night. Do we know what happened to Ito yet? Yeah, you've got to have someone that you can trust to maintain it, though. Like, I don't know that I have anyone that I would trust with that. I don't know. I've like I'm over here like I should think about it. Like I'm going to be writing a last will and testament anytime soon. Listen. Kurisu tightened her hands into small fists. Just for one night, can I sleep in your room? Huh? Of course not. I wanted to refuse instantly, but she looked so tired and kept telling me that she couldn't sleep by herself. I had no choice but to silently nod. When nothing was left of Yui but tiny white fragments, we used chopsticks to move her to the urn. Only after she'd lost most of her weight and fit inside the tiny urn did she finally attain a normal death. That was one weight off my shoulders. I didn't want her staying in that horrible state forever. Yuto was shaking the whole time he moved his sister's bones into the urn. But his eyes were empty, looking at nothing, and he wasn't screaming or crying. Yeah, no, I mean, like, this is actually a reasonable thing for Nono to ask. Like, it's just a little bit weird because Serika just tried to sleep with us. But, like, we're all goddamn traumatized. So, while Yui's classmates and teachers sobbed, he did his work mechanically with shaking hands. When it was done, he turned his empty eyes once more on what was left of his sister. Yuto, I'll find who really did this. I promise you. But he said nothing back. The funeral ended without incident. Uki and Dad took Yuto back home by taxi. Kurisu and I said our goodbyes to Serika, Arimura, and Kazuki, then headed for home. We were walking slowly. I wonder if Yuto's okay. He's got you and Dad. And more than anything, Uki's with him all the time. The loss of Yuto's sister had brought back his PTSD to the point where he was just as bad as he'd been after the earthquake. He'd mostly lost the ability to speak. He'd become extremely afraid of the dark, and sometimes he would go into convulsions. He'd been given special permission to leave the house to attend Yui's funeral, but normally he wasn't even allowed to sleep in his room. Dad had decided to put him up in a room in Alba Clinic. It's strange how it worked out, huh? Huh? It was Uki Yamazoe who was doing everything she could to take care of him. It seemed like the reason we'd saved her and brought her to Alba Dorm was so that she, Yui's old friend, could take care of him in his hour of need. When I told her that, Kurisu looked sad. It's just a coincidence, was all she said. Like, both of these kids, like, this is so tragic. None of this is okay. Like, we've just lost our best friend. We just lost our little sister. Our little sister's brother is now goddamn comatose. The little girl that has been locked up in a room for 5 years taking care of psychics has just lost her best friend. Nono got stabbed, and now she's having to deal with this shit. Like, none of this is okay. The hell? Listen, Takure, about Uki. Huh? If you don't mind, could you start calling her by her first name? I don't know. That's a good question. Yeah, if Yui's psychic power was a telepathic link to Yuto and Yui's dead now, does he inherit some of her psychic ability? I don't know. I don't know exactly how that works and whether like I mean, cuz like if we die or if any psychic dies, like who does the power move? Does the killer get the power? Like did Ethel get the power? Whatever happened with Ethel? Huh? I felt that pain in the back of my chest again. Around 6 months ago, I'd switched from calling her Nono to Kurisu. Looking back, the reason was so stupid that just thinking about it made me mad. But part of me was stubborn and part of me felt just a little too embarrassed, so I'd missed the chance to switch back. I knew that sometimes it made Kurisu sad. Uh, I don't mind, but would it bother Yamazoe? Uki actually said that she liked it whenever people called her by her first name, that she felt like she'd become part of the Albador family. Oh. But I don't just want her to feel like she's part of the family. I really want her to be part of the family. You know? Kurisu smiled, probably for the first time today. All right. I'll call her Uki and not Yamazoe, okay? Got it. Thanks. I'll tell her she can call you Takura too. Yeah. Oh, and then. Hmm? Then should I. Can I start calling you Nono again? Just as I was about to ask. Miyashiro, Kurisu. Huh? Yes? We suddenly heard a voice and turned around. Shinjo was standing there. He must have felt responsible for what happened because there was no sign of his usual vitality. He mostly stared at the ground. Sorry, I wanted to go to the funeral, but I guess I didn't make it. You don't have to do that. You're busy with work, right? The examination at the hospital took longer than I thought. Examination? Ethos. The silence that had developed between Kurisu and I shattered in an instant. He's woken up? Let me see him, please! But Shinjo shook his head. Oh. No, he's still in a coma. He is? I see. But his brain showed the symptoms we'd expected. Swelling? Yeah, his cerebral neocortex is extremely enlarged. Kuno Sato says it's more severe than anything she's seen before. She says that it's because he was subject to very strong mind control for such a long time. Then he's innocent, right? There you go. You just get their power by eating their brain. I didn't want to think that my best friend had killed Yui of his own free will. I wanted to believe that he was someone's puppet, like Kurisu had said. You're right. There was someone. Let me try that again. There's someone else who was controlling him. That's what I think, at least. But there was a hesitation in his voice. But that doesn't change the fact that he did it. You and I and Kunosato know how powerful mind control can be, and so we can say for sure that he did nothing wrong, but the other investigators? No, the prosecution and the judge are likely to see it differently. Of course, so is the rest of the world. Of course, we're considering the possibility of brainwashing based off of Kurisu's testimony, but none of the investigators are quite sure what to do with it. There's just too much that doesn't make sense, and too much that we can't back up with evidence. This all goes way beyond what we normally handle. But we can't start babbling about gigglomaniacs and psychic powers, can we? Shinjo bit the corner of his lip. That's only one reason the rest of the department's starting to question how I'm handling this case. There's a lot of evidence showing up that's not good for Ito either. What do you mean? For instance, do you remember that threatening call that Ito got from your phone after you lost it? Yeah? Huh. Wait, was that Ito? But how? It was a simple trick. There was an app on his phone that would display a fake call and fake caller info, and it had your name and number registered on it. There we go. We just hold an exorcism in court to prove psychic power is real, just like an ace attorney. See, this is clearly a case for Phoenix Wright. Oh. So that was it. Why didn't I realize that? I'd known there was a freeware app that could do that. I remembered hearing how you were supposed to use it to end conversations with people you didn't want to talk to or get out of meetings. And we found these strange chat logs on his computer. Chat logs? Does the name Ed Lucas mean anything to you? Ed Lucas? Who's that? Both Kurusu and I looked confused. Neither of us had heard that name before. Then what about Amy? Oh, I know that. That's the urban legend. That was the character I'd snuck into AH Tokyo General Hospital to find when I was a kid. No, not that one. Logs of those two nicknames chatting were found on Ito's computer. Ed Lucas was Ito's handle. The chat logs consisted of discussion of the murders and lots of detailed observations about you, Miyashiro. It's more than enough for a motive. That can't be. But if you can find out who he was chatting with, that's a clue. But Shinjo balled his hands into fists. Of course, I had the cybercrimes division look into it. But what they found was that Amy didn't exist. Huh? Well, what do you mean? Amy was also Ito. He was talking to himself. But that's impossible. Why? This is Kunosato's theory, but she thinks that Ito's mind had already been destroyed by being subject to mind control over an extended period of time. But since mind control won't be recognized in a court of law, this evidence is extremely damaging to him. It includes information that only the killer could know. A new rage was building up within me. Whoever did that to Yui had also put Ito's mind under so much stress that it had shattered. Damn it! I kicked a small rock at my feet. The rock collided with a nearby wall and split into two. Shinjo, what's going to happen to Ito at this rate? I mean, legally. I don't know. He's a minor, but given what he's accused of? But that changes if the real killer's caught, right? They could lessen the charges then. No, you just focus on protecting yourselves. I'll find the killer. Ito must have realized... That's Shinjo, but Shinjo must have realized what I was trying to say because he cut me off. Find him. Where are you even going to start looking? And even if you do find the killer, what can you do against a gigalomaniac? You haven't been able to do anything so far. That's why you and Ito... This wasn't fair. I knew it wasn't fair, but I was so frustrated and angry that I couldn't stop myself. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm wondering. Like, what if two psychics are controlling him at the same time and they're just communicating through him as Ed Lucas and Amy? Like, that would require two people to have mind control powers, but... I mean, there's a possibility. Takuru. Shinjo's doing his best for us. It's not fair to blame him. I looked at Shinjo's face, then looked away. He had the same pained look on his face that we'd had a moment ago. I'm sorry. I didn't mean... No, you're right. I still don't know how to apologize to you. But please, just don't put your lives in danger. Miyashiro, you especially. If you're thinking about doing something on November 4th... November 4th? The day of the last New Generation Madness incident. Which means that the killer will do something on that day. Shinjo's expression became even more pained. So that's why Miyashiro... No luck, huh? Exactly. He's the honorary gumshoe right now. He can't let us down. He's got to find the killer. He must have seen how strong my resolve was because he turned towards Kurusu. Kurusu? Yes? It looks like he's not going to listen to me. Can you keep an eye on him and make sure he doesn't do anything? I don't want any more victims. Kurusu quietly nodded. I understand. I'll watch Takuru until the end of November 4th and make sure he doesn't do anything dangerous. Kurusu? Something seemed strange about what she'd said, so I turned to look. But she'd already bowed to Shinjo and started walking towards Alba Dorm. Alright. Tokyo Crime. Latest victim chopped up and put into tiny boxes. Too much even for me. So we've settled on fictional young girl? That's from the law Tokyo passed banning depictions of sex between fictional youths in anime and manga, right? But that was, what, 5 or 6 years ago? Does anybody even remember it? It's better than well done for a chick who got burnt to death. How about fictional underage girl? That makes it sound extra sexy. Leave fucking Yui alone! Yeah, there we go. And I'll keep watching Takuru around after November 4th till death do us part. Um, Little Yui, the underage girl, huh? And Yui was an ex grader. So hot. Much hotter than that guy from Gotsuan's death or the crazy lady from Well Done. BRB, going to the bathroom. Officer, there's a pervert in this thread. Anyway, the killer's not supposed to get caught. What do we do on November 4th? LOL. Why don't you go do it yourself? Go make fictional young girl too. The police have been notified. You guys play too many age games. I know! Keep Yui's name out of your mouths! That's my little sister! These stupid assholes! I had to stop myself from smashing the newspaper club's computer monitor. I came very close to depriving Kazuki of her means of playing SO2. She would kill us. Serika, Kazuki, and Arimura were watching me in shock from a corner of the room. Yeah, I say, look, just ban the entire fucking internet. You was too good for all of us. Fictional young girl? Fuck you. Yui died like that. So what the fuck are you doing playing around like this is some kind of game? Taka? Are you okay? Huh? Sedika's worried voice brought me back to reality. My hands were red from when I'd slammed them on the desk and they stung. They might swell up soon. Oh, sorry, everyone. I glanced one last time at the @channel comments, then closed the browser. I warned you this morning not to look at @channel for a little while. I was looking for information on the internet and couldn't help myself. I should have never looked at that nest of self-proclaimed right-siders. They were nothing but idiots being cleverly manipulated by paid professionals. No, I guess I used to be too. I'd been one of them too, at least up until Revolving Dead. But as I started to become a part of the murders, I began to realize how irresponsible and insensitive the information disseminated on the internet was, and how awful real life could be. I just realized how much character development we have gone through since the first chapter. Holy shit. We used to make fun of this kid, we wanted to dissect him in a jar, and now, oh my god, we've gone through so much trauma. Exactly. We will summon our D-Sword and carve Yui's name into their scrotums. Then we'll see how much they like little girls after that. They all deserve it. It was karma. I'd once been proud of my status as a right-sider, but now the whole thing felt like a punishment. Since you've already seen it, I'll tell you. Ito's personal information is up there too. There's talking about whether or not he's the killer. It was only a few days ago they were all convinced it was Senri Minamisawa. I stood and picked up the map we'd pulled off the wall. I put it back up on the board. Huh? Taku? What are you going to do? I'm going to look at all the information we've found so far and make sure we didn't miss anything. There might be a clue to the real killer. Whoever did that to Yui, I wasn't letting them get away. I'd find them and then I'd... Should we call Kurisu then? No, she said she wanted to focus on helping the student council. She just wanted to keep busy no matter what, she said. Otherwise, she remembers what happened to Yui. I see. For some reason, Arimura looked suspicious for a second. It would take a while for me to figure out what her expression meant. At the time, I didn't really think anything of it. I wasn't personally involved in the first incident, Don't Look at Me, or the second leaky noise, so we can come back to those later. We'll start with the third case, Revolving Dead. That's where you met me, wasn't it? Yeah, and I've been wondering if there was anything we missed there. There's something we hadn't talked about because we didn't think it was that important. Do you remember what it is, Onwe? Huh? What is it? Exactly. You don't summon the D-Sword Yui passed down to you. We're going hunting. We are carving up like 500 people at this point. Okay. Was it that the locked door suddenly opened, the police didn't stop us with uniforms in the Love Hotel, or there should be a hidden camera in the Love Hotel room that shows the killer? I don't know. I mean, the police didn't stop us. The locked door suddenly opened, but I think we figured out that was our telepathy. So I guess let's say the police didn't stop us. That's right. You and I were walking through the Love Hotel in our school uniforms. Normally they would have stopped us or taken us in, right?
That's right.
I thought that Onoe had fooled him by pretending we were a couple, but that doesn't make sense, come to think of it. Hekio's uniforms stand out. There's no way a policeman wouldn't notice, but we were ignored. At the time, it felt strange.
I think you're overthinking things, Taka.
No, thinking back, that officer was probably being mind-controlled by the killer. Mind-controlled? Why? To lead us to the murder scene where Arimura was. But why? I don't know yet. Let's come back to it. If the goal was to show me a brutal murder scene and lead me to Arimura, then why? Next was the murder of Watabe, the internet journalist at our school. There's something else that seems strange here. I didn't really think of it at the time, but it doesn't make sense looking back.
What doesn't make sense?
Watabe was a famous journalist. Compared to him, well, I hate to say it, but we're not famous at all. We're just a high school newspaper club. But Watabe wanted to interview us.
That's because you beat him to the punch with the sumo stickers, right? And then there was that whole fuss about plagiarism online, and he came to try to distract from that. Yeah, that's right.
See? It doesn't make sense.
Huh? Why?
You two aren't exactly heavy internet users, right?
Yeah, I guess. Not really?
But even you two could tell that the whole point was to distract from his plagiarism, right? In other words, what he was after was obvious, and it would only make things worse. There was no real point, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Watabe had just been an internet journalist for a long time. There's no way he wouldn't know that. Someone as clever as him was capable of coming up with fresher information fast and changing the subject. The internet was always hungry for new things to talk about. Give them a few big scoops and they would forget all about it.
Then what are you trying to say, Taka?
This is just my idea, but... Did Watabe want to buy us off to make him look good? Watabe was going to apologize for what he'd done at the interview, or Watabe was mind controlled before the festival and could not make good decisions. We're going to go with the mind control because I don't think the rest of it was probably it. That's right. Maybe he didn't realize this, but I think he was being mind controlled as well. And when everyone was watching, he was killed.
But Miyashiro, this is the same as with the Love Hotel. I don't understand the motive. What did the killer want to do?
Their motive, huh? Arimura was right. What was the point of making Watabe do that? What was their hidden goal? Alright, I'll think about this a little more. I put a note about Watabe up on the board. By the way, we know that all the sumo stickers found in his body were fakes.
Why didn't they use real ones?
Probably because the killer is a psychic too. The sumo stickers, aka the 11th Rorschach, had a terrible effect on the minds of psychics. Using real sumo stickers to kill Watabe would pose a serious risk to them as well. If the killer had their mind affected like Arimura and I did, they might have been frozen at the scene. Then they wouldn't be able to escape.
Yeah, you're always a mess whenever you see those stickers.
Arimura nodded several times, frowning.
I really hate those things. It's like these nightmarish delusions just take over your mind, and eventually you stop being sure what's a delusion and what's reality.
That's right. Do you remember that night, Arimura?
That night?
That night when you and I were attacked by the pyrokinetic, Nico Haida. I mean, in theory, if we draw a mustache on the sumo stickers, they wouldn't work anymore because it's no longer just the 11th Rorschach. So, or at least I assume that's how it works. You were there too, Onoe, right? You came to my RV.
That's when I asked you to go talk to Noam, right? But then I went straight home after that. I don't know what happened then.
I see. But did you notice anything on your way home?
What do you mean?
There were suddenly more sumo stickers around the park and the city. The park was sealed off by the police, or the pyrokinetic ambushed me at the park entrance. There were suddenly more sumo stickers. I remember that.
Yeah, I remember those stickers were all over the place.
Yeah, I wanted to go see Kurisu, so I headed to Alba Dorm. But there were sumo stickers all over the park and the city. And they were real stickers, the 11th Rorschach. They almost completely took over my mind. Arimura seemed to remember what had happened. She gave a little scream and hugged herself tight.
The TV news and internet were all talking about the sumo stickers then. So some idiots who didn't know what they were went and stuck them up everywhere for fun. The bastards.
No, when I think about it, I don't think you can blame the internet or TV.
Huh?
Hmm?
What do you mean?
I faced the rest of the group and chose my words carefully as I tried to figure this out for myself. Whenever a story about the sumo stickers showed up on the internet or TV, I would go look at it. But all the stickers on the news were fakes. Very few of them were the actual 11th Rorschach.
Huh?
Which means that if they were just copying what they saw on TV, they wouldn't know what the real design looked like. They could make 1,000,000 stickers and it wouldn't bother us, right?
Then why were there so many that night?
It was probably the real killer. They put the real stickers up knowing the effect it might have. Their goal was probably... Was it to cause psychological pain and awaken us as gigglomaniacs, to kill us as part of the return of the new generation madness, or to lead us to the pyrokinetic? I mean, I assume to cause psychological pain. In theory? No, we'd already awoken. Never mind. Arimura in particular could already use her D-sword. Using the sumo stickers to scare her wouldn't accomplish anything. Think again. Okay. Well, it wasn't to kill us as part of the new generation madness because it wasn't the right day, so I guess it must have been to lead us to the pyrokinetic. We kept running from the stickers that night.
And ran right into Riko Haida. I see, that's right.
In other words, the killer led us right to where Riko Haida was waiting. And Riko Haida attacked us.
But when you think about it, she was no different than Ito. She was being mind-controlled into attacking someone. I feel bad for her.
Yeah, the real killer manipulated us into thinking that she was sending Minamisawa. The killer even went through the trouble of preparing fake evidence. Evidence, huh? The reason we completely believed that Riko Haida was sending Minamisawa was... Did she call herself sending Minamisawa? She had sending Minamisawa's ID card, or Senri's old pic looked just like Riko Haida. I mean, she had the ID card, so... I don't understand why we've spelled Riko 2 different ways, but sending Minamisawa's ID card, that completely fooled us.
But why did she have that card?
No idea. It's a complete mystery. And now we can't spell.
This is just an idea, but the real Sending Minamisawa might be alive, and she was trying to pin the blame on Riko Haida?
But Kurisu kept saying that's impossible.
I think she's just trying to protect her. It's possible that, she's working with her?
Hey, there's some things you just shouldn't say. I almost screamed at Arimura. Was she trying to tell me that Kurisu worked with the killer to do that to Yui? But Kazuki grabbed my shirt and stopped me. She shook her head as if telling me to calm down. That's a possibility. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me that there's more, like, science references, so... Interesting.
Taku, don't get mad. You're scaring me.
Oh, sorry. Arimura, I owe you an apology, too.
No, I'm sorry. That was careless of me. But, Miyashiro, if you're going to suspect someone, you should suspect everyone. You remember that Kurisu lied in front of me once already, right?
She was right. Kurisu had insisted that Senri Minamisawa was dead, but she hadn't actually seen her die.
Of course, that goes for me, Seri, and Hana, too. Huh?
But that means I can't trust anybody.
After what happened with Ito, that's probably a good idea. I liked Ito a lot. Of course, I wasn't in love with him or anything, but he was always so honest. Even if he lied, it was always so obvious, and his lies were never the bad kind that hurt people. He was a really good person, so for the first time, I'm wishing I'd used my power better.
Arimura.
Hina? Until now, I'd always regretted wanting this power. I'd always thought it was better not to know the real meaning behind people's words. But now I regret it even more. If I'd used my power better, I could have realized that something was wrong with what Ito was saying. I could have saved Yui.
Arimura's eyes looked so sad. No, it's not your fault. I sighed a little and moved away from the map. Lunchtime's almost over. It's enough. Oh, and we're shutting down the club for a while. Luckily, told us we had to, so you don't need to come here after school.
I see. I guess we don't have a choice.
Oh, but Kazuki can come and play SO2 if she wants. I'll leave the door unlocked. I forced myself to smile, but Kazuki softly lowered her eyes as if to say no. Oh, she doesn't want to play without us there. The sun set early in late autumn. Just like I'd said over lunch, there was no club meeting that day. I had a short conversation with Sirika, then headed straight for Alba Dorm. Even so, it was already starting to get dark, and it was easy to imagine some hidden attacker lurking in the shadows. But there was more than just fear inside me now. Of course, I was afraid of the murderer. I was afraid of being killed in some horrible way and of dying in incredible pain. But I could also feel a black rage rearing its ugly head inside me. You're going to pay for what you did to Yui. Whoever the fuck you are, I will find you and I will tear you into tiny, bloody little shreds. Those feelings grew inside me with each passing moment. Oh, you're Takure Miyashiro, right? Can we talk to you for a minute? You were the first person to find the body, right? What was it like? The media was still camped outside Alba Dorm. Actually, because of what had happened with Yui, there were more of them than ever. And now that we were victims in their minds, that made them our self-appointed heroic defenders. They'd gotten even bolder. They say that it was your best friend who was the killer. Is that right? You must be shocked, aren't you? How do you want him to apologize to you? Why do you think your friend did this? Was there something bothering him? Shut up! You want me to do the same to you as he did to her? Several of the lights the reporters were holding shattered at the same time. Ah! Huh? Then I suddenly came to my senses, shocked at the strong impulse I'd felt and the eerie light the D-sword was giving off. Today still only November 2nd. Nothing will happen until the 4th. Nothing. I pushed my way past the media and ran inside the dorm, repeating the words as if they were a magic spell. I'm back. I tried to calm myself down and act like nothing had happened. If Yuto heard yelling, it would wake him up.
Welcome back, Takure.
I could see tiny little Uki from the kitchen. We still weren't used to calling each other by our first names.
Dinner's almost done.
Thank you. None of us, including Dad, really wanted to eat anything, but she made dinner every night anyway. That was her own way of struggling against the sadness, I thought. Where are Dad and Kurisu?
The doctor is at the police. It's about Yui.
I see.
Nono is taking care of Yuto in the exam room.
Okay. Hey, Uki?
Yes?
It's fine for today, but 2 days from now, on the 4th, make sure you're not alone at any point in time. Stay with everyone. Don't go outside no matter who tells you to. Got it?
Does that include you, Takure?
That's right. Don't trust anyone. I remembered what Arimura had said, and my heart ached a little. Uki mumbled to herself for a moment, seemingly considering my words. Then she nodded. I'll go take a look at Yuto.
Please tell Nono that dinner is ready too. I'll take care of Yuto.
Got it. I left the dining room and quietly went down the stairs to the clinic. When I opened the door, Yuto was lying on the bed and looking up at the ceiling. He was showing more emotion than he had been right after it happened, and he would answer when you spoke to him now. But he was being given strong psychotropics and spent most of his time asleep or barely alert. Yuto? Oh, welcome home. How you doing? Better? I'm fine now. He forced himself to smile, probably because he didn't want to worry me. But the muscles that controlled his face weren't working the way he wanted yet, and it looked more like he was about to cry. Hmm? Where's Kurisu? I looked around and didn't see her near the bed. Over there. She's asleep, so leave her alone. I found her at the desk where Dad kept his work computer. She was face down on the desk with her long hair covering the top half of her body. Her breathing was gentle and rhythmic. The computer was still on. She must have fallen asleep while working on it. Big Sis Nono hasn't been sleeping much. She's been helping me, but she's also doing her student council work too. She's always sitting at the computer. I told her I'm fine now, but she won't listen. It's Dad's job to tell me you when you're fine. That's true. Don't worry about stuff too much. Just focus on getting better. Neither of us would bring up Yui. We'd probably have to wait until Yuto was a lot more grown up. I tapped him on the shoulder, then grabbed the blanket off the other bed and softly walked over to Kurisu. Even with the heater on, I figured she might catch cold if she slept in a place like this. But, huh? I fell silent when I saw what was on the computer screen. It was displaying several sites that dealt with the return of the new generation madness. And at the very front was the video from Don't Look at Me. It was paused at the moment where the victim realized he'd sliced up his own arm and passed out in a puddle of blood, tears, and drool. There was a newly bought notebook next to her, filled with words in her pretty handwriting. Some of it was names, locations, and times that overlapped with what we had made on the map on the clubroom wall, but Kurisu had made several sharp insights of her own. For example, Incident 2. Why didn't the victim put on makeup for her last street performance? The mind controller is male? He didn't consider that a girl would need to put on makeup? Senne's ID card. No one but me knew that I buried it under the memorial in remembrance of her. The killer had to read my mind to dig it up. The killers can read minds? Which means that there are two killers, one who can read mind and one who can control minds? Supports Takuru's multiple killers theory. There was page after page of it. I'm amazed she put all this together in such a short time. But why? I mean, look, like, you have at least a little bit of knowledge. I have no knowledge except for, like, Schrodinger's cat, so it's all going over my head. Hmm? Oh. She must have sensed that I was staring at her because she moved a little. Her almond eyes slowly opened and she blinked several times. And then she raised her head and looked at me. Hmm? Oh, it's you, Takura. Welcome back. I'm home. Here, have a blanket. You'll catch cold. Oh, no, did I fall asleep? And then she seemed to realize her mistake. She quickly reached out her hand to turn off the computer monitor. I grabbed it. Listen, Takuru, this is... I refused to let go of her hand. What are you doing, Takuru? That's what I want to know. Don't tell me you're doing this for the student council. Kurisu flinched a little. This was the exact opposite of how things usually went between us. It was always me who did the flinching. It is. Like hell it is. You're hurting me. Let go. But I kept holding on and glaring at her a little. At first, she squirmed a little, but eventually her naturally strong will won out, and she glared right back at me. I don't know how long we stayed like that, but surprisingly, it was Kurisu who gave up first. She silently put her other hand on top of mine. I'm sorry, so let me go. I relaxed my grip a little and shook her hand away. Why are you doing this on your own? You're not thinking of trying to find the real killer on your own, are you? And trying to keep the rest of us out of it? That's... You'd get mad if I did that, but you're allowed to? I mean, that's a good hint that you're probably right then, I would assume. If they've used it in a previous game. Maybe. I don't know. Are you allowed to? What if the killer comes after you and you end up like Yui? I don't want that to happen. Takuru. Kurisu fell silent for a moment after I spat out the words. And then she started to talk hesitantly, as if she were uncertain of how to say what she was thinking.
Remember what you said before? That it was like the case was following you now?
Yeah?
It's the same for me.
Huh?
Ever since I learned that Senni was involved, she's been following me.
Huh? Senni Minamizawa? What did she mean she was following her? Didn't she say she died in the Shibuya earthquake? Then that was a lie. And Senni was after not only me, but Kurisu? She must have sensed my confusion because Kurisu shook her head.
Senni died in the earthquake. I know that for a fact. What's chasing me is... I don't know how to describe it.
Her ghost. Huh? My mouth hung open as I struggled to understand what she'd just said. I'd never imagined she'd use an unscientific word like ghost. What are you talking about? I don't understand.
I'm sorry. This is all I can say right now. I don't have the courage to tell you.
Her face twisted in sorrow. I see. There's still a lot of things you can't tell me, huh? By the time I realized what I'd said, it was too late. The pain in my heart had come back and the words had slipped out of my mouth. Even after I'd sworn I was never going to say those words to her again. Just like I expected, she looked even sadder. Kurisu, no, that wasn't what I meant.
But...
I told you before, right? I'm different than who I used to be. And I'm right here in Alba Dorm, right? If I was still going to get mad or upset, I wouldn't come back. Kurisu sat down on the bed, exhausted. I suddenly realized that Yuto had left. It was dinner time after all, and he'd probably thought the two of us wanted to be alone. There was a long, long silence after that. Neither Kurisu nor I said a word. We just stared at different spots in the room. And eventually, Kurisu started to talk.
Someday?
Huh?
Someday, I want to tell you all the things that I can't say. It may make you hate me again, but I don't care. When that happens, will you let me say everything I need to?
Yeah.
Thanks.
And finally, she smiled. It was a weak smile, which looked as though it could fade at any second. Look, ghosts are everywhere. We cannot get away from ghosts.
Hey, Takure?
Hmm?
Do you remember the day you woke up after the earthquake?
I was really out of it, so not really.
But I remember
that the first thing I saw was you crying.
I see.
Thinking back, it's kind of strange. Why were you crying?
Because I was happy you woke up.
Why? Back then, you and I were still, well, strangers.
Maybe that was true for you, but I'd taken care of you for over a year. You were part of my family.
The fragile smile was still on her face.
So I know everything there is about you, even the stuff you're too embarrassed to tell the other girls.
Stop it. You're not supposed to say that.
You're right. Sorry, I won't do it again.
And then there was another silence. It was as if the two of us were trapped by memories of the past and had forgotten that time even existed.
Excuse me.
And then time started to move again. Oh, that's right. We missed dinner. I'm sorry.
No, I'll warm it up again. Sorry, Uki.
Uki may or may not have been able to tell what was going on between us, but she left for the upstairs dorm without another word.
Takuru, go on ahead.
Sure. Kurisu? As she got up for the bed and headed for the dorm, I called out for her.
What is it?
Her soft chestnut hair flew upwards as she spun around. I... As I looked into her beautifully colored eyes, I was finally able to say it. I don't want to lose any more of my family. How long had it been since I'd called Kurisu part of my family? Her eyes went wide for a moment, and then she suddenly started to cry. Takuru. So really, don't do this. Don't try to find the killer on your own. If that happened to you, if what happened to Yui happened to you... Huh? That's pathetic. I'm not supposed to cry.
Fine, I won't. So promise me too, Takuru, that you won't leave me behind and disappear.
Yeah.
I can't take it. I can't take all this sadness.
She probably didn't even know what she was doing, but she ran up to me and buried her face in my chest. She wrapped her arms around me as if she refused to let me go, and cried for a long, long time, calling out Yui's name in a tiny voice. Kurusu. Until now, I'd always been bothered by the idea of a family. I thought it was just a heavy, annoying chain that kept me stuck in one place. But I was wrong. Dad, Yui, Yuto, Kurusu, and even Uki now. They were all part of my family. It was only then that it really hit me that Yui was gone forever. And I held Kurusu's frail body tight and cried like a baby for a long, long time. November 3rd. The school was empty since it had closed for Culture Day. Of course, no one from the newspaper club was there, and the room was empty and quiet. I'd been there alone since lunchtime. I wasn't sure how many hours I'd been staring at the map, looking for a clue that pointed towards the real killer. I had until tonight. Once it was past midnight, November 4th would be here. And then the final return of the New Generation Madness murder could occur at any time. The killer was probably getting ready right now. Who was their last target? Was it me, Arimura, Uki, or someone I didn't know at all? Arimura had already said she would spend the night at Alba Dorm. I'd asked her to stay with Uki and the others at all times. With her power, we should be able to avoid a repeat of what happened to Yui. And I'm sorry, Kurusu. I'm a liar. I would find the real killer and make sure they came after me. And then I'd take revenge for Yui. Yesterday I'd spoken with Arimura and the others and gone over the things that didn't make sense. When we'd talked, there were a few things we'd left to come back to later. First, the third case revolving Dead. Why did the policeman ignore us when he saw us inside the Love Hotel wearing Hekiho uniforms? Interesting. I knew that this one, and I think it's Chaos Head, are in the same generation, I guess. So who knows? I think Chaos Head might be available. So if we like this one, we can always look into it, or there's always Steins Gate, which is also science adventure, just a different major plot line. So I guess look into it. The answer was probably what I'd initially thought, that the officer was being mind controlled. The only reason I could think of was that the killer wanted me to be at the scene. But I couldn't figure out why. So why not think about it another way? What if I hadn't gone there? Why would that cause a problem for them? Alright, was it because I might not have noticed the connection between the stickers and the case? I might not have noticed my power was telekinesis, or I might not have seen a person die in front of me for real. I mean, that first one, like, that was the first time we saw someone die in front of us, kind of. It's true that I witnessed Kakita's death, but I'd seen more people die during the Shibuya quake. Oh yeah, I forgot about the giant earthquake. But this wasn't the first time I'd seen someone's death. I should try something else. It's a good thing they don't just let me go for these. Okay. What would have happened if I hadn't gone to the Love Hotel? I mean, we didn't figure out our power was telekinesis until later, so I guess the connection between the stickers and the case? Because that was when we figured it out. That's right. I'd taken that video without even thinking about it, and after analyzing it 100 times, I'd found the sumo sticker. And then I'd found the other stickers at the other murder sites. Then I made a video connecting the murders to the sumo stickers and uploaded it to the internet. Remember when we were in there too? Like, we were taking video of our, like, but we kept saying that, like, our body was moving on its own, which I was kind of assuming was, like, the trauma of all of it, but what if we were being mind controlled? or something of the sort. I don't know. And because of that video, our minor little newspaper club site had gotten an incredible number of hits. No, wait a second. Then did the killer send me there to benefit the newspaper club? That's ridiculous. I frowned and crumpled up the paper where I'd written newspaper club site hits and threw it in the trash. Then I glared at the map again. I looked at the next note that we'd marked to come back to. It's about Watabe and the fourth incident, Gotsuan death. The real reason that our site had gotten so many hits was that Watabe, the famous internet journalist, had gotten involved. That's why he decided to hold an interview with us, but just like I'd said yesterday, I couldn't figure out why. The interview would have done nothing but fuel the flame war. So I'd guessed that Watabe had already been under the control of the killer. Wait, which means that the killer stood to gain something from having Watabe meet with us, right? Who stood to gain by having Watabe come to Hekiho? Was it the Hekiho Student Council, the Hekiho Academy Newspaper Club, or the Hekiho Academy Lit Club? I mean, technically, we did. I don't think the Student Council would have benefited, so... But our club wasn't going to close, so... That's right. We and the newspaper club were the ones who stood something to gain. I glanced at the paper I'd thrown in the trash that read newspaper club site hits. We were already kind of famous because of the video we'd uploaded about the sumo stickers. The arrival of Watabe, the famous reporter, only increased that. Yeah, maybe the Committee of 300? And then, just as the discussion was about to start, Watabe had become a victim of the return of the new generation madness. Talk about sensational. It's as if they were trying to make the newspaper club famous. But why? And after that, the newspaper club got deeper and deeper into the case. And then the case became more than just something we reported on. We went through things that no high school newspaper club would ever experience and felt excitement, terror, and surprise. Damn it, they've just been toying with the newspaper club. Part of that was the attack on me and Arimura by the pyrokinetic. Even then, the killer had shown signs of toying with us. It wasn't Senni Minamisawa who attacked us. It was another woman named Nico Haida. Yeah, I can't figure out, like, we did speculate Kawahara, but, like, I don't know of any connection that Kawahara currently gets from any of this, so he doesn't really have any way to benefit from this. But the killer had Senni Minamisawa's ID card. That was what had fooled us and also almost sent the case off in the wrong direction. But last night, I finally solved the mystery of the ID card. Because I'd seen this about Senni Minamisawa's ID card in Kurusu's notes. Kurusu put the ID under the memorial, but the killer read her mind and dug it up. That's right. This is what it said in Kurusu's notes. Senni's ID card. No one but me knew that I buried it under the memorial in remembrance of her. The killer had to read my mind to dig it up? The killer can read minds? It was safe to assume that she was right, and that the killer had read her mind and taken the ID card from the memorial. But, what was the reason? Why did the killer want to make it look like Senni Minamisawa was attacking us? What was the point? Alright, did they try to expose human experiments by making Senni Minamisawa famous? They tried to terrify me by bringing up my past trauma? Or they tried to drive Ito, who loves Senni, into committing crimes. Okay, we know that the Ito thing didn't happen because they didn't know each other. So they probably tried to terrify us by bringing up past trauma. That's right. It felt like the killer was using Senni Minamisawa to take advantage of my trauma. In fact, I'd felt terrified many times because of that. No. Wait, that means... I spoke aloud without even realizing it. The killer isn't after the newspaper club. They're after me? Or there's one other person that was with us during that. What if they're terrorizing us to get at Serika? Just a thought, but that's impossible. There was no way they could have committed all these murders just to mess with me. It made no sense, and it was far too elaborate. And for all the effort they put into it, there was something that didn't make sense about the incident with Ito and Yui. That was... Alright, revenge for a girl you once loved, too pathetic to be a motive, ouch. From the order, Uki, not Yui, should have been the next target, or it makes no sense to turn Ito into killer if the motive is vengeance since he didn't know her. That's right, there was no point in making Ito out to be the killer. No, in fact, making Ito the killer was the wrong thing to do. If the point was making it look like this was Senni Minamisawa's revenge, there were other people who would make more sense. For example, though it was scary to even think about, Senni Minamisawa's best friends, Kurisu and Kawahara. If one of them had committed the murder, the police would have never become suspicious at all. It's possible that we might not have even figured out that mind control was involved. This whole thing could have ended with the assumption that it was a plot to get revenge for an old friend. So why did the killer choose Ito when he wasn't involved? And why did they make him tell us lies that would be easily found out? What was the point? It's like they're trying to tell us that Ito was just a puppet and the real killer was someone else. Yeah, exactly. Like, this could be a mystery that we should be a neutral observer, but, we're very personally involved in the details of this case at this point. Like, we've seen a lot of people die, and now our little sister is dead, and our best friend murdered her, and none of this is okay again. And then I suddenly stood up from my chair. Is that what they're after? The killer deliberately chose Ito, who had no motive at all to commit the crime. Of course, we'd realized that immediately and started looking even harder for the real killer. But none of the cops, except for Shinjo, would believe in psychic powers. Add in the media's speculation, and the public's confusion and interest would only grow. That was exactly what had happened. More and more pundits and commentators were arguing over whether Ito, whom they always called Boy A, was really the killer. And of course, multiple threads showed up on 8chan, simultaneously declaring both his innocence and his guilt. There were even threads speculating about who the true killer might be, and they showed no signs of stopping. And tomorrow was the 4th. From midnight tonight to midnight tomorrow, the whole city would be waiting with bated breath to see the killer's next move. I still do not understand how Edgeworth was able to prosecute that trial, where the body was found in the car stabbed with his own knife. Like, that seems like a conflict of interest to me. Or at least we should be suspect number, 1. -1. I don't know. What if the killer had planned all this? It was like they were challenging me to a game. They lured me in with the return of the New Generation Madness, which they knew I'd taken interest in. They used Senni Minamisawa to drive me into a corner from which I couldn't escape. They were moving everyone around for their own ends, both wrong-siders and self-proclaimed right-siders, like chess pieces on a board. And they wanted me, the other player, to try and stop the last murder on November 4th. I put my hand on my forehead and stared at the map, unable to believe it. That was the only reason? They killed all those people for that? That's why they did that to Yui? No, this is a delusion. This is all my delusion. I could hear that I was whispering to myself. That's right. There has to be some greater conspiracy going on here. Some huge conspiracy that will shake the world to its core. And we'd been caught up in that huge plan, and that's why this was happening to us. That had to be it. Suddenly, I heard the sound of a ringing phone. What? I quickly looked around for the source. It was my smartphone, which I'd kept inside my bag. I quickly pulled it out and looked at the screen. Shinjo? Shinjo had been visiting Ito in the hospital every day since he was the one in charge in Yui's case. If he was calling, that meant... I forced myself to stay calm as I hit the answer button. Miyashiro? Yes! Did Ito wake up? Yeah, 2 hours ago. 2 hours? Why didn't you tell me sooner? Don't ask me for the impossible. I was waiting for the other officers to leave the room. If they even caught me talking to you, I'd be punished. But what about Ito? Is he okay? Yeah, he's a lot more alert. He can talk, but... Well, Kunosato? I could hear Kunosato's voice on the other end of the phone. There's damage not only to his neocortex, but his hippocampus and language center, too. I can't guarantee the damage won't be permanent if he pushes himself too hard. That's the situation, but he says he wants to talk to you anyway. I mean, I feel like even if you do have a confession, there's still other suspects. Still somewhat of a conflict of interest. I mean, I guess there was already a conflict of interest since Lana was his former coworker and all of that. I don't know, man. Okay. Ready? I'm putting him on. Okay. I gulped down the saliva in my mouth. Suddenly, I felt a terrible uncertainty in my heart. What was I supposed to say to Ito? Even if he'd been mind-controlled, he was still the one who chopped up my little sister.
but I didn't hear any sound coming from the phone. Ito? Huh? I heard the sound of a deep breath on the other side of the phone. Ito, are you okay? Yeah. My brain is too big. I can never think about panties ever again. In the end, that was all I could say. Miyashiro. Yeah, it's me. I just realized, like, that whole scene, like, I would have shown him everyone's panties if this had somehow prevented the murder. Maybe I fucked up by giving up there at the end. Maybe we could have saved him. I don't know. Forgive me. Forgive me. Please. What? I killed Yui. No, you don't need to say any more than that. I tried to cut him off, but he ignored me and started crying. But Yui was your sister, and I killed her. It's no good. Even if I killed myself, it wouldn't atone for this. Would it, Miyashiro? What are you talking about? Are you saying you're going to die? Snap out of it, Ito. Shinjo's yells overlapped with my words. Listen to me. I don't think you did that to Yui. Someone else is the real killer. The real killer? Yeah, you're innocent. Just try and remember. Someone did something to you, right? Right? Someone did something? Yeah, he confessed. We got him on tape. That's right. Who was the one mind controlling you? Suddenly I heard him scream in pain on the other end of the phone. Ito? What's wrong? Stop it. Make him stop. His brainwaves are abnormal. What? His mind is still being controlled. It's been set up to keep us from getting information out of him. What? At this rate, it will destroy his hippocampus. Did you hear that, Miyashiro? We're done. I'm hanging up. Oh, wait, don't hang up. Ito's screams cut him off. I can almost remember. Just a little more. Ito, that's enough. Stop. But Ito didn't stop. He was trying his best, enduring terrible pain to tell me something. Miyashiro, it was in the club room. The club room? I don't remember when. There was someone else there with me. No, stop it. Shut up. I'm still talking to Miyashiro. Don't hang up. Ito. If I can avenge Yui, I don't care what happens to my mind. Even from here, I could sense his incredible determination. Are you listening, Miyashiro? Yeah, I'm listening. I was thinking Wakue. Like, maybe Kazuki. It's a possibility. Like, even Serika's a possibility, you know? Like, don't trust anyone, but, like... Wakue, we know, has been in the room because he's the advisor. And we know there's some... Like, I just have bad vibes about this man, right? So... I talked with them for a while, and then... That's right, they showed me a picture of you on a phone. A picture of me? Yeah, I don't remember what the photo was, but I remember I was surprised. I was surprised because you look so happy. You were with the people from Alba Dorm. I'd never seen you like that. A picture from Alba Dorm? They had our phone. So we know where our phone is now. What was he talking about? There were no photos like that. And then, that's right, I remember. They laughed and pointed at someone. Kill this girl, they said. Huh? Yui. It was Yui. The killer had a picture of me and Yui together. I got scared and tried to run away, and then someone else opened the door and came in. The two of them. Stop it! Stop! What are you doing? Stop! Ito! Ah! His mind had finally reached its limits. There was one last scream of terror and then nothing. He didn't answer, no matter how many times he yelled his name. All I heard was meaningless mumbling. He didn't seem to know where he was or what he was doing anymore. Miyashiro, I'm sorry, but he can't talk anymore. Give the phone to Kunosato. Huh? Just do it, hurry! A moment later, Kunosato answered the phone in a cold voice. Do you need something? Please, help Ito! You're the one who made him talk. Why are you asking me for this now? Once this is over, you can use me as a guinea pig for your experiments, so please. I heard mocking laughter in her voice. Oh, I'm going to take you seriously, you know.
Do whatever you want, just save Ito.
Fine, I'll do what I can. But don't get your hopes up too much.
Then she hung up the phone. No matter how many times I called back, she didn't answer. Maybe one of the other police officers besides Shinjo had come into the room. Ito. At the very end, he'd endured terrible pain to give me that information. Thinking back, it was incredibly important. It was a winter evening, and there were still cold sweat forming on my forehead. The person who controlled Ito's mind was once here in this room? I tried to drive my tired, exhausted mind to fit in this last piece of the puzzle. But that can't be. That makes it sound like the real killer. Like the real killer was one of us. Yeah, Kuno Sato's... Okay. Do not like that sound. We don't need Kuno Sato's attitude, really, ever, but I couldn't believe it. I didn't want to believe it. Exactly. Ito, he did his best. Arimura's right. Like, he's a teenage boy that needs to figure out what consent means, but he's decent, even though he did chop up Yui. But that was the hint Ito had given me. And if that hint was also a message from the killer. The fact that Ito had woken up right before November 4th, the fact that he'd given me that information, it all seemed like part of the killer's next move. Damn it. If that's what you want, then I'll play along. Even if it's just what you want, I'll find you. Ito's first hint. The killer was talking with Ito in private in the newspaper club room, which meant that it was someone close enough to Ito to have a chat like that, and someone who would belong in the newspaper club. By process of elimination, who could I roll out? Which of these people didn't I suspect? I mean, he's maybe been in the club room, but, you know. I mean, I don't know. I suspect everyone. So, me? Takeru Miyashiro. That's me. I know I'm not the killer, so I can rule myself out. But I'd experienced how terrifying mind control could be at Cafe Lax. Just want to check my mic really quick. Okay, it is still working. I heard a weird click, so I apologize. After that, it seemed possible that I could have been involved in the crimes and not realized it. That's right, trust no one. It wasn't safe to just rule anyone out, even myself. Okay, so obviously Kurusu's been in the room. Serika's been in the room. Hazuki's obviously been in the room. Arimura has recently been in the room. Has Uki? I don't think Uki's been in the club room. Mio was, because she came in. And Shinjo came in. Kawahara, I think, came in when we were... when Kurusu was out. Wakui's the advisor, so he's been in there, and then us. So I think, let's go with Uki. Yeah, I could definitely rule out Uki. There was that call from my missing phone that Ito had received. At first, I thought it was her doing, but now that I'd known Ito had done it all himself, if she and Ito were working together, there was no need for him to install that app. He could have just had Uki make the call. So I could rule her out. Oh, there's more. Okay. Talks to Ito. I mean, Kawahara, in theory, doesn't talk to Ito. Probably not Mio either. Let's try Kawahara. Yeah, I could take Kawahara off the list. He was friends with Kurusu, but not that close to Ito. And because of Kurusu, he didn't like the newspaper club. It was hard to imagine the two of them talking in private here. Yeah, of course it wasn't. Uki is a good girl. Okay, so, Mio probably wouldn't talk. I mean, Kazuki... According to Serika, she doesn't talk to anyone, so, I'd only met Kunosato. That's right, it was after Ito had faked the call. At that point, we'd never met, which meant it didn't match with Ito's evidence. I could eliminate her. Okay. It was probably safe to take Shinjo off the list of suspects. Ito and Shinjo had only met after I'd gotten the call. Yeah, it was safe to rule him out. Apparently I can rule out more people. Kazuki? I could rule out Kazuki. Even when she was in the club room, she was always playing SO2. She never spoke to anyone. Even if she was alone with Ito, she never would have talked to him. Hana Kazuki, Uki Yamazoe, Miyoku no Sato, Takashi Shinjo, Masashi. I don't know why that throws me every time in Romaji. Masashi Kawahara. I could rule out these 5. Which left? And if I use Ito's evidence to narrow it down further.
I talked with them for a while, and then, that's right, they showed me a picture of you on a phone.
The killer had a picture of me, and a picture of me at Alba's dorm with Yui. If I was smiling, that meant it was a pretty old one. If nothing else, it had to be from before I left to go live by myself in the park. The only ones who could show Ito that picture were probably... There were only 3 people who could have done it. I mean... Okay, so we're one of them, because in theory, we would have had the picture. All my old photos of myself and the people at Alba dorm had been lost along... Okay, never mind. With myself, that's right. Our cell phone was lost at that point. And that phone hadn't been found yet. In other words, since I didn't have any photos like that, I wasn't the killer. For a moment, I was relieved, but then I realized my mistake. When had someone begun controlling Ito's mind? I didn't know. Maybe it was from before I dropped my phone. So it was possible that I could have showed Ito the old photo. In other words, I couldn't rule myself out. The only ones who could show Ito that picture were probably... I mean, Kurisu would have had it, in theory. Kurisu would have pictures of everyone from Alba dorm, obviously. And probably old photos of me, too. Which meant she fit the criteria of the real killer. The only one... Yeah. You think Serika would have had it? Serika was my childhood friend. She'd known me for longer than anyone. Of course, she probably had plenty of old photos of me. And when I'd lived at Alba dorm, she'd come over almost every day. She'd gotten along with everyone. Of course, she'd have a photo of Yui, too. In other words, she fit the criteria to be the real killer. Oh yeah, I guess, I was thinking that specific photo, but yeah, she'd probably have a few. Yeah. I also have your baby pictures from the bath. And so I'm left with these 3, huh? I don't like these 3. I don't like suspecting any of us. I pursed my lips as I stared at the photos on the map. The real killer is one of these 3 people? Kurisu, Onoe, or me? One of us was the person who'd killed all those psychics, and done that to Yui. I'd come up with a lot of different theories, but looking back at them, they all seem so impossible. At some point, the setting sun had disappeared beyond the artificial horizon created by the city skyline, and night was falling. How many hours were left until November 4th began? I grabbed my bag and ran out of the room. I wanted something, some form of unshakable evidence. Evidence proving who the killer was. No, that's not right. That's not right. That's not what I wanted. What I wanted was proof that neither Kurisu, Serika, nor I was the killer. Kurisu!
Huh?
I pushed my way through the media camps that still crowded around the clinic and ran inside just as Uki was coming out of the exam room. I don't know, we'll find out. I don't want to pick any of us, but quite honestly, if I have to pick between the 3 of us, I'd rather we be the killer. Because, I don't know. Kurisu I just want to believe in, and Serika is probably it. She gives me the Nana from Higurashi vibes, where a little bit, where, she seems okay on the surface, but she could be super fucked up inside. So that's who I'm guessing they're pushing us to, but I don't know. We'll find out. She was holding Yuto's laundry, and she nearly spilled it on the floor when she saw me.
Takara,
Huh?
Yuto took his medicine and finally fell asleep, so please.
Oh. I mean, I figure that... the more I think about Serika, it makes sense that she's been able to get into places then, because she could literally manipulate people or brainwash them to do what she needs. So, that's the reason why we could get past the security guard, was because she brainwashed them to not worry about us at the Love Hotel, right? I don't know. I don't know.
Why are you in such a hurry? Do you need to talk to Nona?
It's important. Where is she now?
She was just with me and Yuto. I think she's in her room right now.
I see. I reminded Uki to make sure that once the fourth began, she never was to let herself be alone. Then I headed up the stairs to the dorm. Kurisu, are you here? Kurisu. I knocked on the door, but there was no answer. That was strange. If she was in the room, she should be able to answer. I'm coming in, okay? I softly turned the doorknob. It wasn't locked. I opened the door just a little and looked inside. The lights were off and the room was pitch black. Did she go to sleep already? Maybe she wasn't feeling well. She'd tried her best to hide it, but ever since Yui had died, she'd been a mess. Yeah, I don't want to be right about that. Like, the other issue is that I don't know if Nono's... I mean, I assume that Nono's seen the 11th Rorschach. But we know that Serika has. And she didn't react, so... She wasn't eating much, and she'd clearly lost weight. It hurt to look at her. Hey, are you okay? Should I call Dad? I spoke softly as I came inside and approached the bed. Huh? No one was there. She wasn't lying on the bed or the sofa or sitting at the desk. Where the hell did she go? I turned on the lights, but the room was completely empty. I remembered that she'd said something about sleeping in my room before and checked there. But it was empty too. Hey, Kurisu? I didn't want to wake Yuto, but I still shouted as I ran downstairs.
Oh, Miyashiro, hey there.
Arimura was in the dining room. She was paging through a girl's magazine, looking bored. Arimura, sorry, but can you take care of Uki?
No, I'm not her guardian. And anyway, you're a target too, so you need to stay with us. Protect me and Uki both, why don't you?
Arimura frowned and glared at me. I will once it's the fourth. Anyway, have you seen Kurisu?
Kurisu? She just left.
She left? Why? I looked at the clock and it was already past 7.
I don't know. She was in a hurry. I tried to talk to her and she wasn't paying attention.
I'm leaving too. I'll be right back, so just watch Uki for me.
Oh, wait, I told you I'm not her guardian. Miyashiro.
She screamed at me, but I ignored her and ran down the stairs. I had a terrible premonition, and my heart was pounding so hard it felt like it would burst out of my chest. As I was about to exit through the clinic door, Uki poked her head out from the exam room again.
Takure, I'm sorry, but can you please be quiet?
Yeah.
Huh? Did something happen?
No, it's just that Kurisu... Then something caught my eye in the exam room. It was Dad's computer, the one Kurisu had been using before. A pair of stereo headphones were plugged into the front audio terminal. I thought for a moment, then stopped and went into the exam room. Uki saw the look on my face and drew back a little as if she was scared. Is Dad not here?
He went off to look at some patients this afternoon. He says he can't do it here with all the media around.
Then what's this? I pointed to the headphones and Uki looked troubled. She'd probably been told not to tell me. It was definitely Kurisu who had been using them. Of course, she wouldn't need these just to browse the internet. Which meant I could guess what she was doing. Kurisu's a liar too. Just like I was today. I turned on the computer and looked at the browsing history. She either wasn't in the habit of deleting it or had been in such a hurry that she hadn't had the time. The history list was still there, and when I clicked, I found a site with the first video from the Return of the New Generation Madness, the Don't Look at Me case. She was looking at this, I guess? I put on the headphones and pressed play. Ugh! I screamed and ripped them off. The volume was so loud I thought it would blow out my eardrums. I could hear Yuto rolling around on the bed behind me, and Uki put her hand over my mouth.
No, don't be loud.
I made an I'm sorry gesture and then watched as the video kept playing at loud volume. That was close. I almost went deaf. Had the volume got set to maximum somehow? I quickly lowered it, then put the headphones back on and looked at the screen. Was she watching this?
Yes.
Uki's voice was soft. She really had been told to keep quiet about it. This whole time?
No, the video really scared me, so I tried not to watch it, but I think she kept stopping and replaying the same section over and over. And then she seemed to notice something. She suddenly told me that she needed to go to her room and asked me to watch Yuto. I don't know much more than that. I'm sorry.
Her shoulders slumped as if she was ashamed at her uselessness. No, thanks. I nodded and told her not to worry about it. Brother Takure?
Uh, uh,
Then I heard a frail voice. That's you, right, Brother Takure? Did I wake you? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Yuto.
It was Yuto. He hadn't been asleep after all.
No, it's fine.
I looked over at the bed and saw that the drugs had almost put him to sleep again. He was trying his best to keep his tired eyes open.
I know what she was doing.
What?
Big Sis Nono was looking at just one part over and over. I could tell from the sounds of the mouse and what was coming out of her headphones.
Just one part over and over? She'd only been watching one part of the video? But why? Uh, no way. No way. I stared at the computer screen. Had Kurisu found something? Some clue to the killer? Did she find something in this video? Brother Takure. Huh?
Can you take revenge for my sister? Can you catch the person who made it so that I'll never see my sister again?
Yeah, leave it to me. I'll catch them. I'll catch them no matter what.
Sis.
Oh, Yuto. Yuto started to cry, so I left him in Uki's care as I took the phone out of my pocket and dialed a number I knew very well. I grew more and more anxious with each passing ring. Kurisu, where did you go? Pick up the phone. You didn't go to find the killer yourself, did you? I told you not to do that. But this is what you'd do if you found the killer first, right? I know exactly what you'd think. I suddenly felt like I heard her voice. How long are you going to keep pretending to be my big sister? You're a crybaby and a coward, and you always rely on me. So pick up the phone, damn it! But the only thing I heard was the endless ringing sound. November 3rd, 2015, Tuesday. Udagawa-cho, Shibuya. The path to Hekiho Academy. Kurisu was walking alone along an empty street. Her breathing was a little heavy. She'd been walking a long time and at a fast pace. She was wearing her school uniform. There was a school rule that said whenever you went on campus, you had to wear your uniform. It was funny to realize that she was obeying it even now. She'd just found a clue in the Don't Look at Me video and asked a certain person to meet her at Hekiho Academy. The person had said they couldn't be there immediately, but they would call her when they got to the school. So there was no need to hurry. There was plenty of time until she got there. That's what Nono told herself, but her body kept driving her forward.
Oh, my phone.
She realized she hadn't looked at it in a long time. She must have been under more strain than she realized. She looked and saw several calls from Takuru and Arimura. She thought of stopping and heading back, but then sighed as she realized it was impossible. She couldn't go back to Alba Dorm now. If she saw Takuru's face, her determination would waver. Her determination would waver, and she would change her mind. So now the only thing she could do was go forward. Now that she'd realized the hidden truth.
I'm sorry. I guess I'm a liar after all.
She apologized to her absent brother and tapped the phone in her pocket. Then she glared at the hill in front of her as she readied herself for what was to come. She had to rid herself of any kindness or sentimentality. Even if she didn't intend any mercy now, she might find herself in a moment of weakness later. At night, the academy was an ominous, dark silhouette amidst the dazzling lights of Shibuya. It was as if it knew what was coming. Usually there was a guard in the room attached to the front gate, but for some reason she couldn't see him. The air felt tense. She shook off her uncertainty and went inside. She went into the dark newspaper club room and turned on the fluorescent lights.
Oh.
Nono had decided to wait here for her call, but when she realized, she found something unexpected. It was the map that they'd put up to analyze the case, which had been taken down a while before. It was back on the wall, and there were several new pictures and pieces of information that she hadn't seen before. That was probably Takure's doing. He'd been continuing to hunt the killer in secret, too. Takure, you're a liar, too. She felt herself letting her guard down as she thought of Takure and quickly shook her head. She brought a chair close to the wall and sat down and stared at the map. Takure had said something once. But lately, it feels like the case is chasing us instead. Looking back, several things had happened that could only be explained that way. Kurisu had decided that Takure's life was in danger because he was a psychic and that she was going to save him. But if the killer was just after Takure's life, there was more direct ways to go about it. But instead, they got the return of the new generation madness killings and what had happened to Yui. It would have been easy for them to take Takure's life. But just like Takure had said, the case seemed to be slowly closing in on them from all sides. Which meant they aren't after Takure's life. They're after something else involving him. That was the only thing that made sense. But she couldn't figure out what it could be. But then she saw a piece of paper on the board. Haida had Minamisawa's ID card. That fact had sent her mind reeling. One of the reasons she'd figured it out was Riko Haida. But I know who it is that's working behind the scenes, trying to achieve whatever their goal is. It had all started with the ID card that Senni Minamisawa had. That was, without a doubt, her real card. And no one but Kurisu could have known where it was. All of Senni's things lay beneath the memorial. Kurisu had put them there herself. All of Senni's family had died in the earthquake. She had no surviving relatives. So after the memorial had gone up, Kurisu had put them there. Even Kawahara, the other boy who'd been playing with them, didn't know that. It was a secret about Senni that only Kurisu knew. But Riko Haida had held that secret. No, she'd been given it. How was that possible? Mind reading. The power to see other people's thoughts and memories. Kakita, the victim in the revolving dead case, had supposedly possessed it. The killer had used it to read Kurisu's mind. And that was how they were able to find Senni's ID card. In other words, it's someone who I've made contact with. And now that she'd found out what was hidden in the Don't Look at Me video, she had no choice but to fight them. She'd probably made contact with them more than once or twice, because they were one of her closest friends. How long have I known you, I wonder? She suddenly remembered their smile. Her whisper echoed off the walls with no one to hear it. The countless after-school hours they'd spent together were some of the most important times in Kurisu's life. Meaningless conversations, shops they'd browsed together, but she couldn't think of any special memories. And that was very painful for her, because that was only a sign of how close they were. But I have to ask. I have to find out. Even if the answer meant that things would never be the same. And there's one more thing. Her thoughts went deeper. There was one more thing she had to ask. A.H. Tokyo General Hospital. That was where Takure had seen Senni being experimented on 8 years ago. She'd been tied to a chair and slowly going mad when she'd seen a boy, Takure, that she didn't know. She had no time to figure out who he might be. She shouted, "Help me," without even understanding what was going on. And the boy heard it and ran. Was he surprised at the horrible scene he saw, or afraid? No, probably both. And Kurisu couldn't blame him for either. At the time, he was just a 4th grader, a 10-year-old boy. There was no way he could have saved Senni. That was why Senni didn't hate him. Kurisu knew that. She'd tried to tell Takure many times and failed about her one big mistake. That was why she knew. And that was why she'd always been suspicious. 8 years ago, when that boy had witnessed Senni being experimented on, he was alone. He was outside the room where the experiment was being done. Just a single timid boy peeking through a tiny crack in the door. There was no one next to him. But Takure had said he saw it with another person. At first, she'd thought that Takure was just confused. He'd been in a coma for over a year, and he was simply mistaken. But then she said the same thing, that they were together. It had been a thorn in her heart for a long, long time. Were you really with Takure then? She reached out towards the computer, but in the end, she let her hands float in the air. She'd seen the videos dozens of times. It wouldn't be any different here than it was in Alba Dorm. Nor would the secret that it concealed. Nor would it change what she was about to do. There was no changing any of it, it seemed. It took a long time before they called her. It was almost midnight, but Kurisu didn't get frustrated. She simply waited calmly. She'd assumed it would be around this time. They were probably waiting for November 4th, the day of the New Generation Madness.
And then?
And then they were going to do to her what they did to the other victims. She felt her phone vibrating and took it out of her pocket. Takare was still calling despite the late hour. He'd sent text messages too. Of course, Kurisu hadn't answered at all. Was it him again? She thought as she looked at the screen. Oh. The name she'd been waiting for had appeared on the screen. She answered the call and put the phone up to her ear.
Hello?
She heard a voice she knew well on the other end.
Sorry to keep you waiting,
She said.
No, it's okay. I haven't been waiting that long. And I was the one who called you here. Yeah. How about the roof then? Yeah, I'll be waiting.
She ended the call and went to put the phone back into her pocket. But suddenly she stopped and called up a picture on the screen. It was the photo of her family at Alba Dorm, the same as the one that was Takuru's treasure. She stared at it for a while, then placed the phone on the edge of the table, the place where she always sat when she was with the newspaper club. If something happened to her, she wanted someone else to save it. And then she looked around the room and bowed.
Thank you for everything.
She turned off the lights and the room became as dark as the abyss. Don't act like you're never coming back. He wasn't by her side to tell her that. Well, I don't like this. Damn it. I was pulling my hair out in frustration. I'd already watched this video 100 times. It was, of course, the video of Otani, the Don't Look at Me victim. He'd wept tears of blood, lost his arm, turned his desk rest and red and died. Not only was I watching a shocking, gory video over and over again, I was searching desperately for what Kurisu had found. I felt like I was going crazy. Kurisu. Answer me, Kurisu. Each time I finished watching the video, I called her phone. But she never answered. I slammed my finger down on the end call button and started up the video again. Basically, Nono figured out that it was... Nono figured out who was in the video, because she was already suspicious, because when Takuru saw Senni being tortured, he was alone. But somehow, someone, quote unquote, had said that they were also there. So it's now the 4th, and Nono's meeting that person on the roof, and we are still watching the video trying to figure out what the hell Nono figured out. I thought it might be, so I checked every one, but nothing had struck me as unusual. It was just a flood of meaningless comments going from right to left. And only a few of them were actually worried about Otani, which pissed me off more. What the hell am I supposed to find in this video? I expanded it to fill the screen. I tried slowing it down, but there was nothing. Had Kurisu found something here?
Takare?
There was a hesitant knock on the door, and Uki came in. She'd probably just been crying with Yuto. She was rubbing her swollen red eyes. Where's Yuto?
The doctor came back and is looking at him. He took his medicine, so he'll go to sleep soon, he says.
Her voice was still a little teary.
Did you figure something out?
No, I've got nothing. Uki looked very concerned as she watched me grit my teeth.
I was close to Nono when she found something.
Yeah.
She wasn't as calm as she usually was, so I'm very worried.
Uki seemed to be remembering what had happened. Seeing her only made me more worried. What was she like?
Well, she suddenly stood up. She said it couldn't be, that it was impossible. At first, she was very shocked.
Shocked?
Yes, she'd gone pale.
Shocked and pale? Did that mean that she knew the killer? And it was someone she didn't want to be the killer? So it was me? Or Onoe? And then I shook my head.
I'm sorry. If I'd been able to help her then, this never would have happened.
No, it's not your fault. I tried my best to keep her from sensing my panic as I slowly asked her another question. For now, I wanted any hint, no matter how small. Uki? So Kurisu watched the video and figured something out, right? And she watched that scene over and over.
Yes, I think so.
What part was it? Or you don't know, right?
I'm sorry.
She looked down towards the ground. I quickly shook my hand at her. No, I'm not blaming you. What should I do? What do I ask to get the hint that I need? It's no good. I don't know. Tell me, Kurisu. Where is the clue? Come on, tell me. You're such a loser, Miyashiro. And then, I suddenly heard a voice behind Uki. I looked up and saw Arimura playing with her twin tails.
What's with that look? You look like you're about to cry.
Shut up. It's got nothing to do with you. I yelled at her even though I knew I shouldn't. And Arimura laughed.
It sure does. It's almost the 4th. You're the one who told me to stay with Uki.
Oh. I'm sorry.
And, I really like Kurisu, so telling me it's got nothing to do with me pisses me off.
Huh? Arimura's face suddenly became serious. And then she yelled.
Get a hold of yourself. If you're panicking that much, you're not going to notice anything, you moron. That's what Kurisu would say, I think.
Arimura.
Hey, Uki, you said that Kurisu got very surprised and then she watched the video again and again, right? Huh? Yes, that's right. What was she acting like then, after she acted surprised?
Arimura put her hand on Uki's shoulder and started to ask more questions.
She looked very serious. It was kind of scary. Yeah, and she seemed to be listening carefully on her headphones, as if she was trying to make something out. Yeah.
What? And then I realized I'd missed something very simple. What the hell have I been doing? Arimura was right. I'd been panicking too much because of Kurisu. Kurisu was watching this video yesterday. That's why she and I got in that fight. But she wasn't wearing headphones then. And the computer had been set at maximum volume. What if that was deliberate?
What is it, Miyashiro?
The sound.
Huh?
It's not the video. There's something in the sound. That's why Kurisu had worn headphones and set the sound to maximum. Arimura, just listen to this. I handed her the stereo headset that was connected to the computer. When I saw that she'd put them on, I set the volume to maximum and pressed play. So sorry. I bought this cheese on sale and it's just so incredibly hard. Yeah! The sound was so loud that she ripped the headphones off her ears. And then she threw them at me. Are you trying to destroy my ears? Right? That's what you would normally say. Of course it is! That's right. Normally you couldn't focus on anything with the sound this loud. In other words, what Kurisu had been listening to was the part where there's barely any sound. I moved the video back to the start and played it at maximum volume. Okay, I'm going to take 3 minutes for questions. Get to it. The scene with him in front of the computer was too loud to listen to. Oh, come on. I'm streaming right now. The sound got a little better when he left the computer, but it still hurt at maximum value. It was hard to imagine her listening to this part over and over again. Otani disappeared out of frame and I stopped being able to hear what he was saying. This was the part where people thought the killer had come in. But everyone, from the police to internet users all over the country, had thought it would lead to the killer. It had been listened to millions and times in all. It was in this part, someone would have found it already.
It gets scary after this, right? I'll go over there. Let's go, Uki. Huh? But...
Arimura pulled Uki away by the hand. Uki turned and looked at me concerned. Thanks, Uki. I'm fine now. Thanks, Arimura.
Make sure you find Kurisu, okay?
Yeah, don't get separated once the 4th starts, okay? Even in the bathroom.
What?
Yell loud if something happens. I'll be right there.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, but I'm not expecting much. Once I'd made sure that Arimura and Uki had gone up to the dining room, I started to check all the parts of the video with white noise. Not here. Not here either. No, there was nothing here. Or in this scene. Nothing here either. There were small sounds mixed in with the irritating white noise. It was harder than it looked to focus all your nerves on them. My hearing started to fade, and I started to lose my sense of balance. My head felt heavy, and I suddenly had a terrible headache. I grit my teeth and fought through the pain. Kurisu had gone through this, and in the end she found something. I had to do the same thing. Huh? And then I heard a tiny noise. I paused the video without even realizing I'd done so, and I swear to God, if it's that fucking Ghetto Froggy strap, I'm gonna be heartbroken. What was that? I put my finger on the earphone in my right ear and pushed it in deeper so I could hear better. And then I used my left hand to move the video back and press play again. What is this sound? It was the scene where Old Tani was cutting what he described as cheese beneath the dim fluorescent lights. In between the sounds of the knife, I could hear something else. One more time. I played the video again. I know I've heard this sound before. I knew that sound. I'd heard it very recently, very close to me. I played it again and again. I concentrated everything I had on picking out the tiny sound from amidst the noise. What? I finally realized what it was, and suddenly I felt a cold pillar of ice pressed against my spine. No, you could call it sheer terror if you wanted to. My hands shook and sweat poured out of every pore in my body. It felt like the room was spinning. This can't be real, can it? I don't like this at all. God damn it! I slammed my shaking hands down on the desk, and the pain finally got them to do what I wanted. It took me several tries, but I finally managed to open my Pokécom and power it on. I yanked out the headphones from the PC and plugged an audio cable into my Pokécom. No. 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 I kept screwing it up, but I managed to load that scene into an audio editing software. I set the volume to maximum and set it on repeat. And then I hit the play button, my hand still shaking. No! Best Girl is a murderer. Apparently we just have a desire for murderers. This can't be real. I slammed the Pokécom down on the floor and called her on my phone. The phone rang and rang. Once, twice, 3 times. Did Kurisu notice this sound? It kept ringing. 6 times, 7, 8. It was as if she was ignoring me. Oh, she's not picking up. I ended the call, and this time I pulled up Kurisu's number. I tapped the call button, but I got the same result. Why? Why? They kept ignoring me. No matter how long I waited, I couldn't hear Kurisu's voice. God damn it all. I hung up the phone and ran out of the room without even knowing where I was going. November 4th, 2015. Wednesday. Well, I hate this. I officially hate this, thanks. The roof was normally a place for students to laugh and talk, but under the cold moonlight, the empty benches seemed silent and sad. Kurisu looked at the benches and shivered once more. It wasn't just because of the cold. It was because she had realized that this place was truly empty. Of course it was. No one was allowed here at this hour. It was an isolated place where the warm light didn't reach, only the cold light did. No matter what happened here, the rest of the world wouldn't care. It wouldn't exist outside of this place. It's too perfect, maybe. It was so perfect for her that it was almost sad, Kurisu thought. Like, there's got to be a reason. And, like, we know that she only does that Ghetto Froggy strap when she's nervous. So, like, I wonder if there... There's got to be something. I don't know. I'm holding on hope. While Kudisu was waiting for her to arrive, she hadn't been thinking about the case. Strangely, she'd been thinking about her family and friends. What had she always said to her family before she'd left to come here in the morning? Did they smile? The younger students who'd helped with the student council's work? The talks she'd had with her classmates about the latest fads? The brief fights in the lunchroom, forgotten as soon as the bell rang to tell them to go back to class? Each time she started to lapse too deep into her memories, a cold wind would blow and pull her back to reality. And then she'd realize something with a self-abasing laugh. She knew it. The reason Nona wasn't thinking about the case was because that part of her was sure she already knew everything. If she asked, she would get the fatal answer that would lay bare the truth. Yeah, something, or maybe she's doing this in some way to turn back time, or Chaos Child syndrome or something. I don't know. There's got to be something. And once she'd heard the answer, a strong wind blew as if to carry away her thoughts, and she closed her eyes for a moment. And when she opened them, she heard the sound of a rusty door opening.
No?
Her lips twisted a little when she heard her say it.
No, huh?
It made her mad to hear herself called that. She felt heat rising from the bottom of her stomach. It was time to begin.
I'm really sorry to bring you out here. Hey, Onoe? No?
Did she realize that Kudisu was using a different name? Or did she sense something instinctively? Sirika repeated herself, this time with a suspicious look on her face. She tried to get closer, but a glance from Kudisu stopped her. Sirika froze.
Answer me. Was it you? Was what me? Answer me. Huh?
Kudisu repeated her words to her former best friend, the one person outside of her family that she called by first name. But Sirika's expression didn't change. It was the same face Kudisu knew so well. The same look as when Sirika brought a crepe and was wondering what was inside. Thinking back, the two of them went shopping together all the time. Onoe had insisted she looked fine without makeup, and Kudisu had insisted on buying her some anyway. It had been a lot of fun. And they were always together in the club. She had argued against Takuru's reckless plans and stopped Kazuki from pounding the walls, and the two of them had always been amazed at the stupid things Ito said. But they'd always been laughing together. But
You were there at the scene of the first crime, weren't you? Huh? I don't know what you're talking about, Nung. Where is this coming from? There was a sound on the video. A sound I knew well.
in the Don't Look at Me video, she'd heard that strange sound that Serika's ghetto froggies made. Serika had a bad habit of unconsciously fiddling in it whenever she was focusing on something. Kudisu took a step forward to stop herself from falling over, and glared at Serika with a challenge in her eyes. That's right. Kudisu was glaring at Serika.
Wait, Nung. I said answer me. Huh?
Serika staggered back at the sound of her loud footsteps. Finally, her expression changed. There was fear in it.
Yui isn't a part of my family anymore. She's dead. She's not coming back. Why? Why did you do that?
Serika stayed quiet, the terrified expression still on her face. Was she really terrified by Kudisu? Or was she trying to fool her? Or... Kudisu took another step forward.
On that day, 8 years ago, did you really go down into that hospital basement? Were you really there with Takure? You can't answer me, can you? Because you weren't there. I know that better than anyone. So who are you?
Kudisu's question was something she'd wondered about ever since Onoe had said she'd gone into that basement with him. It was the one last thing she'd been unsure of, which she'd kept quiet about to protect her own secret. Until a little while ago, it had seemed like it didn't matter. She was willing to go her whole life without finding out, because Serika Onoe was someone she loved. But now...
Tell me, who are you?
But Serika said nothing, not a word. Did she really not know anything? The thought crossed her mind for a moment, but she quickly kicked it away. That was just what she wanted to believe. She'd had suspicions about Sedika for a long time, but she'd ignored them because she was too afraid to ask. And the result of that had been Yui's death. Kurisu raised her hands and brought them together as if offering up a prayer. And the next moment... Oh, shit! The hell? She brought them down, hard and straight, as if swinging a sword.
Huh?
Sedika moved back just a little. Her movement might have looked like pure reflex, but Kurisu didn't miss it. Which meant...
So I was right, huh?
Yeah, I don't like... Oh, man. That was the answer to everything. Oh, great. Now we have the organ music making all of this more... I don't like this. I hate this.
So that was it, huh?
Sedika's face became blank and expressionless. She didn't frown or sigh at her own failure. Her manner became that of a beautiful doll.
Sedika.
She was right. She'd been ready for it, but she still couldn't help but cry. She tried to stop herself. She grit her teeth. But Sedika's gaze wasn't fixed on her anymore. She stood, legs apart, as if judging the distance between herself and the thing in the seemingly empty space between them.
There's no question.
She saw it. And now it was Sedika's turn to look into her eyes. Her eyes were different than Kurisu had ever seen before. It was as if they saw everything.
No, that's not right.
Suddenly, Kurisu knew. It wasn't just a simile. Her eyes did see everything. That was telepathy. A terrible, twisted power which exposed all of your most treasured secrets. She heard the sound of herself clenching her jaw, and then she forgot the tears and turned herself over to the rage that was boiling within her. That is a hella cool D-sword, let me just say. It had been 6 years since she'd real booted, and it was almost sad how easily it came into her hand. The D-sword. A monstrous blade that only those with power to make delusions real could wield. She refused to look away from the light that she'd never wanted to see again as she pointed the blade at her opponent.
You were the one who was using Senni Minamizawa, weren't you? I don't want to hear that from you, Nonos Kurisu.
Her voice made Kurisu shiver. Holy shit, that is cool too! And a blade even more wicked than her voice appeared in Sedika's hands, opening like a blooming poisonous flower. It was beautiful. For a moment, she was blinded by the beauty of the weapon. She forgot that it threatened to cut into her soft flesh. Sedika leapt off the ground. The distance between them was closed in an instant. Kurisu brought down her own sword as hard as she could without even time to follow her movements. And as she screamed,
I'm sorry.
She could hear her voice. By the time she realized she was talking to Takeru, it was already too late. The light flashed in front of her as if driving the thought from her mind. Oh, bye, Nono. Why? Why, Sedika? The same thought kept going through my head like I was an idiot. I couldn't think. Why? What was she doing at a murder scene? Damn it. The saliva caught in my throat as I moaned in pain. It took a lot of effort to keep myself from falling over. Damn it, I didn't have time to waste here. Huh? I stopped as I heard a sound. I was in front of a familiar place, but it wasn't the one I'd been coming to. I was on my way from Alba Dorm to Sedika's condo in Daikanyama. What was that? Huh? I saw something strange in the corner of my eye and looked up at the school building. The school at night was an imposing sight, and on top, I could see a feeble light like a fluorescent bulb that was about to burn out. Huh? I started to run, dragging my feet forward as I ran. I raced up the stairs of the building without even bothering to take off my shoes. The lights in the yard illuminated my face with a certain rhythm as I ran. But that light was something different. That strange, dull light, it was the light of a D-sword. I made it to the top of the stairs and slammed straight into the door. Huh? I yanked it open, trying my best not to think about what I'd find beyond. The first thing I saw wasn't the light of the D-sword, but the red. My heart beat loudly once, and then all was silence. I didn't feel anything at all. It was as if I'd totally frozen at what I'd seen. She was lying on the ground in front of me. Her clothes were red. Someone was in front of her, looking over their shoulder at me. No, not someone. I knew her, but she looked different than I'd ever seen before. And the deadly weapon in her hands made me shiver. And that weapon was deeply, deeply. A strong wind blew towards the open door. It was as if someone was trying to push me back in, as if they were trying to get me away from the threat in front of me. She'll kill you too. Run away. Now. Was the voice I heard an illusion? Or was it the person I cared about? Suddenly, all sound disappeared. My head hurt like hell. I ignored it. All the doubts I'd had, all the feelings that had told me it was a lie, I left them all behind me. Behind? It was only when I saw that the distance between us was closing rapidly that I realized I had started running. Huh? A meaningless scream poured from my throat. I could tell from the way my throat was vibrating, but I couldn't hear the sound at all. I kept running, but everything seemed to be passing by in slow motion. I felt a pulsing in my brain. My hand reached out for nothing at all. Until now, I'd never been able to touch it, but now I could grab it easily. What was I touching? What was I holding? Some fragment of useless rationality was still within me, asking these stupid questions. I was holding the thing that was going to slice her apart. My own delusions made manifest by real booting. A twisted blade that weighed nothing at all. When I swung the D-sword, it was more than close enough to hit her. Huh. She had already turned around and raised her D-sword up from below. Why did she have a sword too? I didn't know. But before I could think about it, I brought down my weapon with all my strength. Huh? Siddika blocked it without making a sound. No, that wasn't right. My D-sword stopped before she could block it. Right before it would hit her. What's wrong? I heard a voice I'd never heard before. I saw a look I'd never seen before. I couldn't move. She hadn't done anything to me. There was no mind control. I was the one in control. But my hands had stopped as if they'd struck an invisible wall. Why? Why? You're not going to come? Why couldn't I move? Why wouldn't my arms, my legs? My feelings caught up to me. My reason came back, and my heart finally started to scream. This can't be happening. It can't. Why would Sedika do this? It can't be real. Gah. The pounding headache I'd forgotten came back, and I fell to my knees. My head felt like it was going to split. I'd grabbed it with both hands. At some point, my D-sword had disappeared. The will that I'd tried to strike Sedika with was already gone. I dug my nails in and closed my eyes. I could feel the veins in my forehead with my hands. I felt something sticky on my knees, and I smelled a mild perfume. It was the same as before when my little sister had been killed and ripped apart. Again? This is happening again? It was the blood of someone who was every bit as important to me as my little sister. Nono Kurise. Who had done this? Who had come at her with a blade and cold eyes? No, I'm telling you, it can't be Onoe. I tried to use my rage to drive it all away, but I couldn't. Kurisu. I heard a wordless voice. I forced my eyes to open. Huh? Sirika was already gone. I looked around with blurry eyes, but there was no light from the D-sword and no sign of her at all. I crawled over to Kurisu. Kurisu. She was crying. Big tears fell silently from her unlit eyes. Her chest was stained red, and each time she breathed, more blood came out. Kurisu. I pushed my hands up against her wounds. It was the first time in my life I had touched a girl's chest. Why are we thinking about this now? It was so soft, but the dark, sticky liquid kept pouring out and staining my hands red. Somebody! I don't know what to do at a time like this. How can I save her? She was going to suffocate. As she started to cough, I put my hand behind her head and quickly turned it to the side. Blood poured forth from her mouth and fell onto the ground. Taku. Don't talk. It's okay. It's okay. I tried my best to hold the wound closed. Okay? How was this okay? She was bleeding so much. She was in so much pain. Yeah, there we go. It's melee à toi. Takare. I told you not to talk. Kurisu's face twisted and she started to cry again. And... Huh? She suddenly grabbed the hand that was on her chest. And her grip was so weak. In that moment, I felt an indescribable chill in my heart. Come on, grab tighter. Be stronger. It's like you're going to die. Her breathing was getting so shallow that she couldn't speak. But she tried to grab my hand and bring it next to her head. No, I need to keep the wound closed. But it looked like she shook her head just a little. And then she slowly brought my hand to her face and put it to her lips. The red from my fingers clung to her purple lips and shone like beautiful gloss. No. The sensation on my fingers was soft but terribly cold. And then I knew. Yeah. She was going to die after all. No, that can't happen. It can't. I'm sorry. Her hand moved away from mine and fell to the ground. No. The name fell from my lips. It was the first time I'd said it in half a year. Come on. No. It was the name of my big sister, who'd always protected me. Wake up, No. I lifted her up and held her tightly in my arms. She didn't move at all. Why? How can this be happening? Come on, No. I called her name again and again, knowing from now on she would never answer me. At some point, midnight had passed, and it was November 4th. The last of the return of the New Generation Madness murders had occurred right before my eyes. We had just received an extremely unusual announcement from the police. It is a warrant for the arrest of a minor issued under their real name. The announcement says that as of 12:30 a.m. today, November 4th, the police have issued a warrant for a person of interest in the series of murders that occurred in Shibuya Ward, Tokyo. This is a national arrest warrant for Takeru Miyashiro, a third-year student at Hekiho Academy. I repeat, excuse me? Excuse me. I lost my balance and fell over. I couldn't use my hands to break my fall, so a sharp pain raced through my shoulder instead. Some ashes got into my mouth, too. I tried to get up, but the weight and warmth on my back wouldn't let me. Serika hadn't woken up for a while. She was breathing. I could feel the beating of her heart. She was fine. I could taste blood as well as ash. I must have cut my lip when I fell. Damn it! I somehow managed to stand up without dropping Serika, cursing as I did so. I couldn't just stay lying on the ground here. My goal, A.H. Tokyo General Hospital in Yoyogi, was a long ways away. It was fine. I would get there no matter what. Neither Serika nor I were going to die here. Hey, this way, come on! Huh? I saw people crowding around what probably used to be a store. I heard what sounded like someone calling for help, and someone else saying they'd brought water from a broken vending machine. It was evidently being used as a temporary shelter. Should I stop? I was thirsty. I wanted water. No, I couldn't. That wasn't my priority, I knew that. I had lots of scrapes and small cuts, but none of my wounds were fatal. In an emergency like this, the most important thing wasn't water or food, it was finding a safe place. I'd learned that on the internet one time, and since I didn't know what was wrong with Serika, she needed a specialist to look at her. There was no telling what might happen here in Shibuya. It was better to head to AH General in Yoyogi. That's right. I'm a right-sider, and that makes me better than the wrong-siders who are staying here. I ignored them and passed by. I licked the back of my cuspid so that my body would make more saliva and I'd feel less thirsty. That was another trick I'd learned. I wasn't ignorant like the rest of these people. Is this okay? Okay, press down here. Huh? Something seemed strange. I suddenly realized that I knew some of the voices from the shelter. Oh. I looked and saw that they belonged to my classmates. I almost never went to school, but I vaguely recognized a few members of the group. There was an adult woman lying on the ground in between them. There was blood coming from her stomach and her head. My heart skipped a beat. I just barely managed to stop myself from falling over. Why? My classmates seemed to be trying to save her. They were each taking turns holding down on her injuries, not caring that their hands would be covered in blood. Why? Why are you doing that? All you ever do is talk about stupid crap and you never listen to me. Why aren't you panicking? You guys don't know anything, right? About priorities or cuspids? Why aren't you screaming? Why aren't you running? Why are you so calm? You never did anything useful with your time. You can't even use the internet. All of your information is low quality. Miyashiro? Is that you, Miyashiro? One of them saw me and ran over. Then he started to ask if I had water, if I was all right, if I could help. Each new question came before I had a chance to answer the last one. I'd seen his face, but I didn't know his name. So how did he know my name? How could he remember it at a time like this? Why? The word got stuck in my throat and I couldn't get it out. I didn't even know what I was trying to ask. Of course! Do you want to just let her die? I didn't know how he'd interpreted my response, but he suddenly started yelling. And then he grabbed my arm and told me to come with him. Wait. The woman's hurt. I have to save her. No, I have to get to AH General Hospital. I saw lots of injured people on the way here. That's right. This place was dangerous. My top priority was finding someplace safe. That was what my information told me. No matter how hard he pulled, I didn't move. Nothing moved, actually. It felt like I was outside my body watching him pull it. Why wasn't I moving? Was I scared? Of course I was scared. If she was hurt, I should help her. Like my classmates were. Wait, I wasn't like them, right? I was a right-sider. No, they were doing the right thing. I should help them. I couldn't move. What should I do? Forget it. You're a useless piece of shit. Get lost. He spat out the words as he let go of my arm. He ran back to his friends and they all started to take turns pressing down on her injuries again. He whispered something to them and they all looked at me for a moment. There was disgust in their eyes. Their eyes said more than words ever could. I hope I never end up like him, they said. The next thing I knew, I was running. Not because I had to get to the hospital, because I wanted to get away. I don't remember where I ran. Each time someone lying on the ground begged me for help, I ran faster and in a different direction. I closed my eyes so that I couldn't see anything, then tripped. I held my ears so I couldn't hear anything. My body was shaking. I felt coldness pressing in from all around me, like I'd never felt before. Why was I running? I was the right-sider. While they were learning about useless nonsense at school, I was becoming smarter than them. I should be the one looking down on them. That's right. That's right. I knew lots of things they didn't. I should go back and tell them what to do. Were they treating her injuries right? Were they doing it in the right order? I could make the right decisions. Takeru? Huh? I was very surprised when I saw who'd just spoken to me. It was my mom and dad. What are you doing here? Only then did I realize where I was. It was the shelter outside AH Tokyo General Hospital. I'd made it. It doesn't matter. Let's go. This hospital's no good. Yeah. While they were studying the blade, I was being straight. Dad motioned to Mom and I to keep moving. Why? Someone just said this place was safe. They're overloaded, and anyway, we need to get further away. There's no telling when the aftershocks will hit. It looks like there isn't really much damage to the north. The company's building is close. Let's use the car there. What? I didn't hear anything about that. Takaru, what are you doing? Hurry! When she grabbed my arm, the sensation from earlier came back and I shook her off. Takaru, what are you doing? Don't start causing problems again. You're saved. Saved? I'm saved? Just come with me. Mom screamed and pulled me along behind her as she followed Dad. I went too, my legs moving as if they weren't my own. Saved? From the hell I'd just seen? I was saved? By people who had never cared about me before? There was a sharp pain in my head. I shook off her arm. Huh? Huh? My mom was screaming, but I didn't know what she said. I couldn't hear. My head hurt, and I didn't know why. My vision started to blur, and I could feel my body starting to go numb. My nails were digging into my head, but I couldn't feel them. I tried to think through the pain. Saved? Me? Why? These people had always neglected me. Now they were going to save me? Why? You two just happened to find me here, which means you were going to leave me, right? You ignored me for so long, and now you're going to save me? And I'm supposed to accept that? Uh-huh. A pain shot through my temples like I was being stabbed with something sharp. No. No. That wasn't what you were supposed to say. This isn't what's supposed to happen to me. This isn't the information I'm supposed to get. All the wrong-siders in this class were doing the right thing and looking down on me. I'm a right-sider. I'm the person who's supposed to know what to do when everything goes wrong. I'm not like those preening jackasses online. I actually went on a dangerous adventure, and they looked at me like I was less valuable than some random meme and joke site. And now you people are going to save me? You, the people who just gave me 1,000 yen instead of taking me out to dinner on my birthday? Hell no! I'm not the kind of person who just gets saved by parents who don't even want him. Shut up, you're the ones who are in the way. What can I do? What do I want to do? Why am I here? I thought of my childhood friend. That's right. Where's Serika? I'd come here to save Serika. I couldn't feel her on my back through the pain in my head. That's right. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm saving someone's life. Serika will understand that. I'm kind of wondering whether, is she even our childhood friend? Have we, maybe we've had all of these memories planted in our head. Maybe we don't even know her. She always tells me I'm right. She always understands what I have to do. The pain went beyond my capacity to endure it. My whole field of vision went white. Shut up! You people should just go away forever. Onoe! Serika, save me! Please! Please! Onoe, please! Give me... Chapter 10, Serika Onoe. And as much as I hate to do it, we're going to end here for tonight. Because it's a good place to end. And I hate life right now. Next stream. So as a reminder, we're going on hiatus. Next stream, technically, I'm not leaving until Sunday. Keep posted whether or not I can do this cliffhanger, or whether or not I'm going to cave into a stream tomorrow before I leave. But it's a great cliffhanger. So, as a reminder, we're going on hiatus. I may stream tomorrow because I have no, I'm weak, and I want to know what happens. But otherwise, we will be back on the 27th. So please enjoy your time that is not spent watching me play video games. Oh no. All right, I won't stream tomorrow then because I feel like we've got to watch it together. We've got to see how all of this crazy shit ends. So, it's a great cliffhanger. Can't wait to come back. So, we'll be back on the 27th. As a reminder, Mana is at MetroCon right now, so watch out for their stuff. I think they've got some more performances tomorrow. I retweeted their schedule on the Twitter, so please feel free to check that stuff out. Yeah, I think that's all I have. So thanks for hanging out. Keep thinking about this. Start your crazy theories. I'm gonna see. Hopefully, there's something spoiler free that tells me what we need to do next because I feel like we're coming to the end. And so, if there's alternate endings, I want to make sure that like we do it in the right order or whatever we should do. So I'll start checking on that for when we get back. But otherwise, please have a good 10, 12 days. And I was about to say Merry Christmas. I don't know why. Not Merry Christmas, unless you celebrate it in July. But please be safe, have fun, and we'll be back later. Thanks all. Have a good night. Bye.